All right, we've got some good news, at least I think. We're here at the Cloudy Pass Trail Junction, and there is no sign saying that it is closed. There was a sign at the last junction saying that it was open effective yesterday, and I was able to satellite message my brother and confirm. So we are good to go. I don't know why I'm walking down here, taking a little break, kind of beat feet a little bit to get up here as quick as I could. Um, and now finding out that we're going to go a different direction. So a bit of a wrench in my plans. I still got that box over at Winthrop that I got to figure out how to go pick up. And now there's only 5 total miles closed, but there's 15 miles south of that before the junction that you have to get off on to get into Stehekin. And there's a bit of mileage north of that from the closest junction. So I think I'm going to try to figure out a way to touch every section of open trail. So what that's preliminarily going to look like, this is kind of brainstorming now, is and it's a 15-mile road walk into Stehekin. So honestly, it might have been easier logistically if they had just kept things the way that they were. But you roll with the punches, do what you can do, and overall, it's a good thing. I'll get more red line miles in than I would have anyways otherwise. But it might actually take me longer to get everything done. So game plan now is to hike to Stehekin, where you would normally get off and get into Stehekin. There's a old Forest Service road that goes up to a backcountry camp area and a ranger cabin up there. I'm gonna try to get there this evening, so another 20 miles. That'll be a pretty big day today, right around 30, maybe 29. Good news is it is mostly downhill from here because we just did almost 4,000 feet in elevation gain in the last 9 miles to start the day. So at least we got that out of the way. So go up there and then probably road walk down into Stehekin, and then the following day probably get a ride up just with one day worth of food, run up, touch the border of the closure, run back down, go back into Stehekin, and then walk to Mazama, which is about 2 days, hitch from there into Winthrop, and essentially from there it'd be business as usual. So it actually is going to delay me a little bit more, especially if I want to get those extra miles, which I think now is going to be probably the best time to do that. I would love to, keep the footpath going, get all the way up to Canada, and then come back and deal with it afterwards to get as many miles as I can, because there's a chance that if it's rainy that we could even get that last closure to be open. That would make things a lot easier, but there's no guarantee of that, so I kind of gotta weigh and see what I want to do. As long as there's a closure and I have continuous footpath, I could just come back and get it all later. But if there's open trail and I have access to it, I'd like to hike it. So, just kind of those conundrums. But anyways, gonna be hiking with Tall Boy. His phone's having an issue where it's not charging properly. It's telling him that there's moisture or debris in his USB outlet. That happened to me when we had a rainy stretch, but it figured itself out after an hour or two, just being careful, making sure nothing was getting in there. But his has been doing that for a couple of days, and now his phone's dead. So I'm gonna be sticking with him so that he has a way to navigate, but it shouldn't be too bad. We should be able to get into town tomorrow. Got enough food for that, and then I guess we can really make decisions after that on what we're gonna do, or what I'm gonna do. What I do and he does may not be the same thing, and that's quite all right. But yeah, that's it. So I don't know. We'll figure it out, I guess. But so far, so good. Hey there, it is Saturday, September 2nd, 9:43 a.m. We are walking down to Stehekin, camped about 3 miles from the road, and now we're heading down. There is a shuttle that runs by, and Lost and Found actually took that, but there's actually more traffic on, well, it was a gravel road. It turns into asphalt here. It's been flip-flopping back and forth. But yeah, for some reason I had in my head it was going to be a 15-mile road walk, and it turns out it's only 11 or 12, somewhere in there. So, I didn't actually hike 3 more miles, but it feels like I got 3 or 4 more miles done because I'm going to be getting to town, should be before noon, which is really good. So this ended up not really making any difference whatsoever with regards to mileage, if we had gone into Holden and walked to Stehekin that way, but we did get more miles on the PCT, which I think is a good thing. But it ended up adding 11 miles. The detour to Holden, it cut off 20 PCT miles, and it was a 31-mile detour, so it adds 11 miles total. And going this way, in order to keep my footpath continuous, instead of taking the shuttle on this road, I'm road walking it, which adds 12 miles. So, I mean, pretty close to breaking even here. But overall, really glad that we got to see that last section. Yesterday was absolutely beautiful, coming up over Cloudy Pass. The climb up, there were a couple of outlooks, but nothing much. Mostly we were in tree canopy. But then coming down the other side, absolutely beautiful, and coming down into these bowls with these high rock walls up to these peaks up ahead. It was pretty cool. And I was talking with Tall Boy. You know, the one thing that you really can't capture in a photo is how high up you have to look to see some of these mountains that we're walking next to. It's I don't know, it's humbling, I guess is the right word. Just being close to something that big and looking up at it, and almost can feel its magnitude. To give you a little example, we got just a tiny break in between the trees here, so let's see if we can take a look. So we got the tree. Oh, where are we at? There we go. There's the mountain. My head was in the way. So, I mean, here's ground level. That's up there. And this road walk has been pretty cool. We were walking by these nice little meadows, and what I thought at first was a farm or a ranch. It turns out it's like a little resort ranch where you can rent out a cabin. It looks pretty cool, but it just absolutely beautiful landscape, and then these mountains right behind it, right up against this river. And I should have looked up the name of that river prior to starting recording this, but I don't know. But that river over there, that one just yonder, that this road parallels for the entire 12 miles into Stehekin. So it's just been a really pretty, really nice road walk, and shorter than I thought it was. So we're in a pretty good spirits. I'm looking forward to hitting up Stehekin Bakery. There were about 3 or 4 places that I was excited about going into this food-wise, and I've been kind of disappointed so far. First one was Paradise Valley Cafe, mile 151, right before San Jacinto, and the only disappointment with that is that I wanted to get a burger, and I got there for breakfast time. Their breakfast burrito was good, but you hear, their burger's kind of legendary, and didn't get to eat that. And then Timberline Lodge. I was excited about the buffet, but I was doing that Oregon Challenge and didn't end up getting the buffet because I got there too late. Couldn't stay till morning because I had to get to Washington. So, what I mean to tell you is that I'm walking into Stehekin, and I'm gonna do my darndest to eat my weight in pastries before I climb out of Stehekin. So that's the goal. We'll see how it goes. I don't have any food in Stehekin, and it's not a great place to buy food. So I am gonna be splitting one of Lost and Found's boxes with her, Venmo or something for that, so I could send my box up to Mazama, where we'll be walking from Stehekin to Mazama the next stretch, just about 2 days. So I'm kind of hoping that there are a few, oh, here we got a car coming by. But yeah, not a bad road to walk on. It's busier than I thought it would be when I was walking on it and it was just gravel, but there's actually some happening stuff, and I had some people with some bikes riding up and down. But yeah, so I'm gonna eat as much as I can at Stehekin, and then probably pack out some bagels or some pastries that'll keep a little bit. And yeah, so it turns out there's only 5 miles of trail that's closed. I really contemplated going up and down the 15 miles from Stehekin, or from where this road crosses, to where the closure actually starts, and then doing the same thing on the other side, which is a little bit less mileage from the junction where the alternate passes, where the alternate reconnects on the northern side of the PCT. I think there's about 5 miles or so, 5 or 10, something like that, up there that are technically open, that at this point I don't plan on doing, which kind of hurts to say that, open miles that I don't plan on doing. But at a certain point you kind of get a choice. So it's reasonable for me to either try to get all the open miles or maintain a continuous footpath. But the logistics between trying to do both is just kind of insane. I would have had to have walked down to Stehekin, taken the shuttle back up, hiked up and down. That'd be at least a day, probably a day and a half. It's 30 miles with pretty good up and down. My pack would be kind of light though, with only a day's worth of food, and then carry an extra day's worth of food on already a pretty big carry, going from Mazama up to Hart, or up to Canada, back down to Hart. And if I wanted to add the extra down and back to tag the border, it'd probably be an extra day's worth of food. So turn a 5-day carry into a 6-day carry. Packs are getting heavy, and all for what? Because I'm going to have to, or at least my current plan is to come back and knock out that section that had the fire closure at some point, probably with my brother. So it really comes down to, at this point, you know, once we get around this fire closure, we've only got about 50 trail miles left. So the odds of me being able to make that with continuous footsteps and no new closures is pretty good. Coming into this, I wanted to do either or, both if possible. For a while it looked like both was going to be possible. Now it's not. There's trail closures, and by both I mean either continuous footpath or 100% of the open trail as I go by it. So obviously we've got that 5-mile section that's closed. I'm not going to do that either way. Some people kind of test these closures out and walk on them when they're closed. I did do that at one point close to Castle Crag, but that was a little bit of a different circumstance. It was closed for trail maintenance. They were doing fire maintenance, clearing out the underbrush, and it was closed so that they could have the workers in there not worrying about hikers passing through. And it was after hours. We did it at night when the crew wasn't there. That's a little bit of a different circumstance than walking straight through a fire closure while the fire's still burning. The fire's not actually on the trail, but it's close enough. They've decided to close it. I'm not a fire expert. I'm not going through it. So I'm rambling a bit now, but yeah, just doing pretty well. Definitely did not get a lot of the views that Section K has to offer between Stevens and Stehekin here, mostly because of those the rain that we had for 3 days straight. Didn't get to see a lot because we were just stuck in the clouds. But between that and the smoke, I don't know which one I'd rather have, but you know, you don't get to choose, you just take what comes at you. So that's kind of where we're at. So who knows, maybe when I come back out I redo a chunk of that section as well, but that is a lengthy section, so we shall see. But yeah, that's about it for now. Tomorrow is September 3rd, and Alita Piper, Carol Halligan's birthday, and I'm not sure when I'm gonna hike out of Stehekin. Originally was thinking tomorrow morning, but there's supposed to be a storm passing through, so we might take an extra day in Stehekin and then shorten the rest in Mazama to increase our weather advantage of not hiking in the rain. You know, after just hiking 3 days straight in the rain, the idea of walking out of town in the rain doesn't sound nice. It never sounds nice, but especially after really just finally yesterday getting all my gear dried out from, you know, 3 or 4 consecutive days of everything being wet. So, all right, that's it. Until next time.